I'm in my home.
When you think of the Nintendo Entertainment System, what comes to mind? Maybe it's Super Mario Bros, The Legend of Zelda, Kirby, maybe even Excitebike, Mega Man 2 or Punch-Out! Games that are for the most part phenomenal. So that might lead you to think the NES library is filled with nothing but quality. Well, yes and no. Yes, there may be classics like Super Mario Bros, but it also holds such garbage such as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Beetlejuice, and the focus of today's video, Top Gun. In this series, we're going to look at some of the worst games out there. I guess you could say, I'm going to take you back to the past to play some shitty games that suck ass. Anyway, as mentioned, today's episode is on the game Top Gun, based on the movie of the same name. But with enough talking, let's get into this. The game is split up into 4 different missions. Now, while that may not sound like a lot, the game makes up for it by being cruel as fuck. But we'll get into that later. First, let's talk about the positives over the negatives. And don't worry, this won't last long. The controls were pretty ahead of their time. You press down, you go up. You press up, you go down. Now, for games nowadays, that is exactly how planes controlling them. But I'm gonna have to deduct points due to, you know, that's how planes fly in real life, and I have to deduct more points because the game doesn't tell you the controls at all. But that doesn't matter. Let's just start the game. Mission 1, training for the next mission. Sounds easy enough. So next you also get to pick how many missiles you want, which is kind of dumb. Why would you pick less missiles? Now the idea is that the less missiles you have, the more powerful they are, but that doesn't really matter since the base missiles can blow up a plane in one shot. In fact, your basic machine gun can blow up these planes in one shot. And we're off, and do you guys notice something? Silence. Outside of the plane, nothing. No music, no speaking, no fun. Also, if this is the training mission, why am I still shooting these guys down? Aren't they on my side? Oh, there went Daryl. Somebody tell his son that his father didn't love him. Also, look at these 3 things in the side. Why are they there? They literally do nothing. The gameplay is alright. There's really not much to say. Shoot things in a plane, and shoot things in a plane, and shoot things in a plane. If it isn't obvious, the game gets boring quite fast. And not only is that due to the lack of music, but because the game's gameplay overall is quite repetitive. And the biggest problem in the game is that it just tells you nothing. For example, here, there is a plane behind me. How do I deal with this? I hit every button on the controller, which there are only 4, nothing. So what do you do here? You have to pull off the fastest U-turn known to man and get this guy off your screen. Like, yeah, it makes sense, but couldn't the game tell us this? Oh, here comes the most infamous part of the game, and not for a good reason. The landing part. The game tells you what to do, but yet no matter what you do, it doesn't work. You follow it precisely, you crash. You say fuck it and do it your own way, you crash. You become religious, believe in all religions, go to church on Sundays, pray to Allah every single day, give thousands to charity, and you still crash. I've done this 5 times and I've crashed every single time. It's impossible. Trying to follow the instructions feel like you're trying to input a cheat code, not putting a proper command that you need to do to progress in the game. But like seriously, it shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't feel like I'm trying to put a cheat code in. Alright, come on. Oh god damn it, I accidentally put the Konami code in again. It shouldn't be this difficult to pull this off. You probably have to quit your day job and put your life and soul and sacrifice your loved ones and your neighbor's pet goldfish to even have a chance on landing on this boat. Anyway, so even though I crashed, it still lets me move on to level 2. Mission complete. My ass. Mission 2, destroy an enemy aircraft carrier. Level 2 is almost, you guessed it, identical to level 1. In this level you're under the clouds, so that's the big difference. You get to look at a different shade of blue. How thrilling. This level is also when the bullshit meter reaches a whole new level. I mean, look at this. The level's only just started and I'm already being shot at by 3 different planes and I'm being bombed. Also, one thing I noticed is the hit marker isn't even in the box. But seriously, look at this. It is only the 2nd level. This has to be the biggest difficulty spike in video game history. And look at this. What killed me here? That little bullet? That's another problem. Most time, you just don't know what killed you. You have to cross your fingers and pray to God and braid your pubic hair, and you might have a slight chance of finding out what killed you, but you'd have a better chance of Jesus coming down to earth and fondling your balls before that happens. And I'm not gonna lie, this is pretty much where I gave up. I tried this about 5 times and I can't do it. It's impossible. You'd have to be an actual fighter jet pilot to have even a chance of doing well in this poor excuse of a video game. I'm not gonna lie here, this is where I decided to try and maybe look at some cheat codes maybe, but of course there aren't any. I mean, I don't know why I expected they couldn't even code up game properly, yet alone cheat codes. Oh, and before you ever go at me saying like why even try using cheat codes in the first place, I want to remind you, this is the 80s, back when every game had cheat codes. I mean, if you know the Konami code, you were the badass of the schoolyard. And you know what's even worse? They made a sequel to this game, Top Gun: The Second Mission. Should have been called Top Gun: The Second Scam, but we're gonna leave that game for another episode. But I do just want to put that in your mind for a second, that we got a sequel for the video game, before we got a sequel to the movie. Another thing quickly, why does the copyright screen have no colour? It looks like a Game Boy game. Anyway, to wrap this game up, I would describe it as a unfun, painfully difficult for the sake of it game that hasn't aged well in the slightest, and honestly, wasn't any good back then. One thing you're going to notice about a lot of hard old video games is they're not hard for the sake of challenge, they're more hard because there's very little content to them. For another example, you've got Karate Kid on the NES. That game only has 4 levels, so to make up for only having 4 levels, they decide to just make the game as hard as possible to make the game last as long as possible. It's not because the game is actually, really difficult and a good challenge. It's more because of, well, there's no content to the game, so they have to make it last as long as possible while making it as hard as possible. The game was ahead of its time, and that's something you can't deny, and that's something you can't really take away from it. However, that doesn't make it any good at all in the slightest. The game just hasn't aged well. The concept of the game is honestly really good, it's just the execution of it just wasn't. The game wasn't good back then though. The gameplay isn't the greatest, the gameplay is very boring, the lack of music makes the game even more boring, and overall, it just isn't a good game. But with all that being said, I got fucking nothing, the game just sucks.
Someone wrote this song before, and I could tell you where it's from. Before 7362251, to put my mind at ease. Please just have a laugh with me, 'cause you know I'm borrowing by now. These sounds have already crowned. Come on, it's a silly dream, dreaming of the imagery unfound. Love you.
Ass! Fuck!
Fuck.
Also, I don't know why I mentioned praying to Allah. I mean, come on now. they're not really well known for landing planes, they're kinda known for crashing into things.